Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Tom's Corner, where you can hear the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. Topic to our lesson: has God ever used us to judge rulers? While you're thinking about that, all right. Now, in Acts 23:3, Paul refers to a whited wall in the Bible. He is addressing the high priest Ananias, calling him a hypocrite, essentially saying that he appears righteous on the outside, but is corrupt and unjust on the inside, like a wall painted white to cover up its dirty surface. Okay. Now, he is criticizing the high priest for judging Paul according to the law, while simultaneously breaking the law by ordering him to be struck. Back then, you couldn't, what a man was saying, when they being judged over something, you couldn't strike him till after he was judged. But they struck him in the face prior to the judgment. Now, Paul says this to the high priest during his trial before the Sanhedrin, a Jewish religious court. Get over here. Where you at? Come on. You know your place. Come on. Get up. Come on. All right, let me say it again. Paul says this to the high priest in here, while simultaneously breaking the law. Okay. I'm positioning a little bit late today. Okay, now Paul says the high priest during his trial before the Sanhedrin, a Jewish, religious court. This saying or whatever is similar to Jesus' condemnation of the Pharisees in Matthew 23:27, where he calls them whited sepulchres, tombs painted white to appear clean, while inside they're full of corruption. That's what Jesus said. Now, this connection to Ezekiel, this imagery is likely drawn from the prophet Ezekiel, where he condemns false prophets who plaster the people with whitewash. In other words, they run their mouth and tell them a bunch of things shouldn't be said, more or less lies, signifying their false prophecies of peace when there is no peace. Today we call this hogwash. And believe you me, we sure are eating enough of that. Now look what has happened to our judicial system. Now, they are trying to make laws, not interpret them. I'm sure many of you, especially the younger group, have been to the civic classes. Then you know it's 3. All right, and one can't take control of the other. Back in 1979, I worked in underground mines, which mined coal. I was in an underground roof fall. Rock fell on me, crushing me to the ground. It took 9 men and 1 woman to lift the slate off of me. I crawled out using just my hands. I couldn't move my right leg at all. Literally, on my right leg, the doctor said that I had, because I was pressuring back so hard, that I ripped all those ligaments in my right leg. I couldn't move it for a long length of time. And even when I began to heal, I could hear a popping sound in those muscles, and it took quite a while for me to recoup from that, especially on my leg. Now, this mine was only 32 inches high, and some of you want to know how high 32 inches are. You probably got a dining room table. Crawl under your dining room table. Eat your food. See how you like that. That's where I worked in 8 to 10 hours a day, sometimes six days a week. And you would ask, well, why would I do that? Well, in our area, It was the only thing that it, right offhand paid the most money. There was not a lot, and is not a lot of industry here. So you have to do what you have to do. Take care of your family, support your family. Although a lot of people don't stand up for that anymore, I still believe that that husband's duty is to take care of his family. And I was in a crawling position. In other words, I was on all fours because of the height. That's the way you got around. You were down almost crawling. And I was in a crawling position when this rock fell on me. I felt literally my knee pushing through my backbone as I strained with all my might, and I was losing a fighting battle. And I'm going to stop here and give you more detail on it. You know how, to give you an example, if you see a frog, I'm not advising you to do it, but this is a comparison. It's like putting your foot on a frog and slowly pushing down. The frog can't win that battle. And I realized I couldn't either. Now, I knew I was going to die. That was one thing I knew. And the only thing I could do at that time was barely cry out, help, help. And that's what I did. That's all I did. Why God had spared my life, I couldn't tell you why. Until now, that you could read this story and hear this story and know that even in our worst state, God does show us mercy. Years and years later, I had to have my gallbladder removed. It took a long time in the operating room. And when the operation was over, all these stomach muscles right along in here were ruptured. This was because of the pressure of the gas. That's one of those where they punch holes in you and they pump your stomach up for that gas. Well, they had it pumped up for a long time and it ruptured me out. Most of my intestines, now here's why. Most of my intestines had lesions, which had to be removed one at a time, to get to my gallbladder. They couldn't get to it. It was then that I actually found out that during my mining accident, I actually was bleeding internally. I didn't even know that at the time. All the years went by, and when they began to take it in to get the gallbladder, that's when they found out. And he asked me, were you ever in an automobile accident? And I'm looking at him and said, no. And then it dawned on me. When I was in the mining accident, my knee was pressing so hard, and it caused internal injury, and I was literally bleeding on the inside. Didn't know that, yet God had his hand on me. Now, to finish the story about the whited wall, I had fought for years to get my compensation award. I represented myself because my so-called lawyer was too ignorant to represent me. And that's just about the fact of it. I lost my miner's pension because of him. The comp, so-called judges, kept turning me down. And the comp doctors were just as bad. Unbelievable. You know, I used to have faith in doctors that they were in your corner. If you were hurt, they were there for you. But I realized, like anything else in life, quickly, they were not for me, because they were being paid by compensation people. And they made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the one particular lawyers that the company had hired to fight me, they would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep me from getting $5,000. That's the attitude, that's the way they operate, that's the way they work. Sad thing, I realized then that when you work sometimes for certain people, you're just a number. You're only as good, and they'll praise you while you're working hard for them. Smile, buy you a pair of shoes or this and that, give you a little bonus. Something happens to you, they don't know who you are. They kick you aside to them, and then they will fight you. When I had my accident in the mines, I got their reports, and they have papers they filled out. Is this a compensatable injury? They wrote, no. I'm in that mines that I work for, and that mines signed affidavit. It's not a compensatable injury. I couldn't even move my right leg. I was almost killed in there. Well, this eventually came down to Social Security, so I'm gonna go on, okay? So-called judges and the doctors were just as bad. Social Security finally came through. Sometimes you think Social Security is for you. No, they're the same as compensation people, okay? Same thing, it doesn't matter. They're not for you, they're against you. Just like leaderships and things that go on in the government, you think your representative is for you? No, they're not. They're for themselves. They're for the lobbyists that give them a couple $1,000 and they sell your soul for that. That's what you're worth. You're worth nothing. Now, Social Security finally came through after 2 denials, which means I had to suffer for years trying to get some kind of help because I was basically at that period of time literally unable to work. At which time I was being, now get this part, they rejected me twice, and at the same time I was being operated on my back because of the roof fall. It exacerbated over the years. The doctor told me, and this happened 7 years after I was injured, but it kept getting worse, worse, worse. And finally, I had to go in and get an operation. And this was, okay. And when, more or less, that's when I was able to get Social Security disability. Because I went in after the operation. I said, you guys deny me Social Security benefit, and I'm already being gutted in the hospital. That's how much you know, and that's how much you care. Now, their main goal in the Social Security office, now I'm gonna like them, and I'm gonna do it to all of them. And under Hitler, they had people that were in charge of you in certain positions and degrees. And they knew what was going on and they could help you. But they refused to give help to you. I like this to this. These people that work in these Social Security office, they know how to help you. They really do. They could help you by telling you certain things that you could get your benefits. You know what they do? Don't say a word. They did that in Germany. When they realized people were being killed and everything, they weren't there to help you. They didn't care about you. It was their own selves, their own paycheck they cared about, and they could care less about you. That's what you got going on today. Now, I did go to the Supreme Court of West Virginia, and I won. I've been there many times, concerning my neurological problems due to spinal cord damage. Any operations pertaining to this, comp had to pay for all my life. And I've had some operations. They paid for it, okay? Now, but I had to go to the Supreme Court, but the compensation denied me. And the Supreme Court ruled in my favor and this was adjudicated to me. So if I have neurological problems in any way, I go in the hospital, they pay for it. It's not comp that's covering it. They do cover it, but it's the fact that judicial rulings that was made from the Supreme Court benefited me, not comp. All right, now, and the compensation has to pay for this for my lifetime. The very last time I sat before the this is what I'm getting to. This is the finale of it. The very last time I sat before the compensation judges, and there were 3 of them, I realized I was beating a dead horse. And I spoke to them and I told them as I sat there, you aren't nothing but a whited wall. That's what I spoke to them. You dance to whoever pays your salary. Normally, it takes 60 days to make up their mind and their decision. Me, it only took 1 week to get my denial. Remember this. In God's word, he said we would be brought before kings and rulers. God said that he would fill our mouth. And before these people that I spoke to, whether they knew it or not, they had been judged. God bless. I'll see you in the next trip.